I don't want to leave German women prison of war broke down when black U.S. soldiers told them to leave. The train's rhythmic clatter made my teeth chatter as we rolled through endless fields of green. Wisconsin, they had told us, a place I'd never heard of before the war. My fellow German soldiers, all women like me, huddled close in the cramped train car. Some whispered prayers, others stared blankly ahead, but most pressed their faces against the windows, trying to make sense of this strange new land. I touched the rough fabric of my uniform, now dirty from days of travel. The American soldiers guarding us kept their distance, speaking only when necessary. They weren't cruel, but their presence reminded us of our defeat, of how far we'd fallen. "Look at all that open space," Maria whispered beside me, her voice trembling. "It's nothing like home." The fields stretched endlessly, dotted with red barns and scattered farmhouses. Such abundance made my stomach twist. Back home, our people were starving. I'd seen the desperation in their eyes before I was captured, watched as they fought over scraps of bread. The train began to slow, its wheels screeching against the rails. My heart pounded harder with each passing moment. Through the grimy window, I could see the camp emerging. Rows of wooden barracks surrounded by tall fences topped with coils of barbed wire. Guard towers loomed at each corner, their shadows stretching across the dusty ground like dark fingers reaching for us. Aufstehen! The command to stand came from one of our own, Helena, the highest ranking among us. We rose obediently, gathering what few possessions we had been allowed to keep. The train door slid open with a harsh metallic screech. The afternoon sun blinded me momentarily as we filed out onto the platform. The air here smelled different, cleaner, with hints of pine and grass. But the metallic tang of fear in my mouth overshadowed everything else. "Schnell! Schnell!" Helena barked, maintaining order as we formed neat lines. This discipline was all we had left, this small reminder of who we were. That's when I saw them, the American soldiers waiting to escort us into the camp. My breath caught in my throat. They were black men, standing tall in their crisp uniforms, their faces unreadable as they watched us descend from the train. I'd never seen black people before, except in propaganda films that painted them as savages. But these men stood with dignity, their weapons held professionally, their movements precise and controlled. The woman behind me grabbed my arm. "Mein Gott," she whispered, her nails digging into my skin. "What kind of place is this?" I couldn't answer her. My eyes were fixed on one soldier in particular, who stood slightly apart from the others. His face showed something unexpected, not hatred or triumph, but what looked like understanding. Our eyes met briefly, and I quickly looked away, confused by what I'd seen there. We marched toward the camp gates, our boots raising small clouds of dust. The black soldiers flanked us, maintaining a respectful distance. No shouting, no threats, no rifle butts jabbing into our backs. Nothing like what we'd been told to expect from our captors. The gates creaked open, and we entered our new prison. But as I glanced back one last time, I caught that same soldier watching us. His name tag read, Woods, and there was something in his expression that made my certainties waver, just for a moment. Everything I'd been taught about these people, about our enemies, none of it matched what I was seeing. Before you continue listening, please let me know where in the world are you watching from today. Now back to the story. The barracks door creaks open, and I step inside with the others, my legs trembling from exhaustion. The wooden floor groans beneath our feet as we file in, each of us clutching our few belongings close. I've prepared myself for the worst, a dank cellar maybe, or a freezing concrete room, but what I see makes me blink in confusion. Sunlight streams through small windows, casting warm rectangles on simple wooden bunks. They're not luxurious, but they're solid and clean, with thin mattresses and blankets folded at the foot of each bed. It's nothing like the horror stories we'd been told to expect. "Choose your beds," a guard says in accented German. His voice is firm but not cruel. My fellow prisoners hesitate, looking at each other with uncertainty. Finally, Anna, the oldest among us, moves toward a bottom bunk. This breaks our collective paralysis, and we begin claiming our spaces. I select a top bunk near a window, placing my small bag on the mattress. "This cannot be right," whispers Greta, who takes the bunk below mine. "Where are the chains? The restraints?" I understand her confusion. We'd been taught that American soldiers were savages who would show no mercy, especially these black soldiers who guard us now. Yet here we are, being treated like people. The afternoon brings more surprises. We're led to a mess hall, our footsteps echoing in the quiet. The smell of food makes my stomach growl. Real food, not the meager rations we'd survived on during transport. A line forms, and one by one, we receive bowls of thick stew with chunks of potato and meat, along with bread that's still warm. I stare at my bowl, not quite believing it's real. That's when I notice him, Private Woods, the tall black soldier I'd seen earlier. He's serving the food, his movements careful and deliberate. When it's my turn, he ladles a generous portion into my bowl. "Eat well, sister," he says quietly, his eyes meeting mine for just a moment. His voice carries no hatred, no contempt, just a simple humanity that makes my throat tight with unexpected emotion. At the tables, we eat in silence, but I can feel the confusion among us. Helga, usually so vocal about her hatred for the Americans, merely frowns at her empty bowl. Margarete actually asks for seconds, something none of us expected would be allowed. But it is. As night falls, I lie in my bunk, listening to the soft breathing of the other women. Sleep won't come. My mind keeps returning to that moment in the meal line, to Private Wood's gentle words. "Sister," he'd called me. Not prisoner, not German, not enemy. Sister. I roll onto my side, pulling the blanket tighter around my shoulders. The wool is rough but warm, another kindness I hadn't expected. Everything I thought I knew about our captors seems wrong. We'd been prepared for brutality, for punishment, for pain. Instead, we've received beds, food, and basic dignity. Private Woods' face appears in my thoughts again. The quiet strength in his expression, the careful way he served the food, making sure everyone got enough. It doesn't match anything I've been taught about Americans, especially about their black soldiers. Something stirs in my chest, a question I can't quite form, a doubt I'm not ready to face. In the darkness, I hear someone crying softly. I don't know if it's from fear, relief, or confusion. Maybe it's all three. I close my eyes, but sleep remains elusive as Private Woods' words echo in my mind. "Eat well, sister." Through the barracks window, early morning light streams in, casting long shadows across the wooden floor. I sit up on my thin mattress, my muscles aching from yesterday's journey. The other women are stirring too, their faces still marked with uncertainty and fear. A sharp knock at the door makes us all jump. "Guten Morgen," calls a deep voice. 4 volunteers for laundry duty. The English words that follow are strange to my ears, but the meaning is clear enough. No one moves. We exchange glances, each waiting for someone else to step forward. Finally, I stand up. Whatever happens, it can't be worse than this endless waiting. 3 others, Maria, Elizabeth, and Helga, slowly join me. Outside, the morning air is crisp. A black soldier waits for us, his uniform pressed and neat. He's younger than I expected, perhaps my age. His expression is neutral, professional. "This way," he says, gesturing toward a low building near the edge of the camp. The laundry room is humid and filled with the sharp smell of soap. Large metal basins line the walls, and piles of uniforms wait to be washed. The soldier demonstrates what he wants us to do, scrubbing, wringing, hanging. His movements are precise but not threatening. We work in silence, our hands red from the hot water and harsh soap. Elizabeth mutters under her breath, old propaganda phrases about inferior races. But I notice her words lack conviction. It's hard to maintain hatred face to face with someone who hasn't shown you any. Halfway through the morning, Maria starts swaying on her feet. Her face turns pale, and she stumbles. Before any of us can react, she collapses. "Hilfe!" Helga cries out. "Help!" The black soldier moves quickly, but not in the way we feared. He kneels beside Maria, checking her pulse with gentle fingers. He calls out to another soldier, and within moments, they're carefully lifting her. "It's okay," he says to us, his voice steady and reassuring. "We'll take her to the medical tent. She'll be looked after." I watch as they carry her away, their movements careful not to jostle her. There's no roughness, no indifference to her suffering. They treat her as if she were one of their own. We finish our work in thoughtful silence. When we return to the barracks, I find myself drawn to the window. The sun is setting now, painting the camp in soft oranges and purples. In the distance, I can see the medical tent where they took Maria. I think about how they handled her today, with care, with humanity. My fingers trace the rough wooden windowsill as memories surface. Lectures about the enemy, warnings about their cruelty, lessons about their supposed inferiority. But what I saw today doesn't match those teachings at all. The soldier who supervised us hadn't sneered or barked orders. He'd shown patience, explaining tasks clearly despite the language barrier. When Maria fell ill, his first instinct was to help, not to punish or ignore. I rest my forehead against the cool glass, feeling strangely unsettled. Everything I thought I knew about these men seems to be crumbling. Their actions speak of compassion, not the brutality we were warned about. How can I reconcile what I was taught with what I'm seeing with my own eyes? The medical tent glows softly in the gathering dusk. Somewhere inside, Maria is being cared for by the very people we were taught to fear and hate. I close my eyes, letting this new reality sink in. Nothing here is what I expected, and I don't know what to make of that. The morning sun beats down on my back as I drive my shovel into the hard Wisconsin soil. Sweat trickles down my neck, and my muscles burn from the repetitive motion. Around me, my fellow prisoners grunt and dig, their faces streaked with dirt and exhaustion. I pause to wipe my brow, stealing a glance at Private Woods, who stands nearby with another soldier. They're keeping watch, rifles slung over their shoulders, but their stance is relaxed. I've noticed they don't point their weapons at us like I expected they would. "Water break," calls out one of the soldiers. I'm still getting used to their accents, so different from the English I learned in school. Private Woods walks among us, passing out tin cups of cool water. When he reaches me, our eyes meet briefly. "Drink slowly," he says, his voice gentle. "The heat can make you sick if you're not careful." I nod, taking small sips as he taught us. It's strange how they seem to care about our well-being. Back home, they told us Americans were savages who would torture us. But here they are, making sure we don't get heat stroke. "Did you see how they brought extra bread at lunch?" whispers Maria, one of the younger women, as she digs beside me. "My brother was in a Russian camp. He said they barely fed them at all." Helga, working on my other side, wipes sweat from her face. "Maybe they're trying to trick us into letting our guard down. But I've been watching them carefully. The kindness in their eyes seems genuine, especially Private Woods. Yesterday, when Anna twisted her ankle, he helped her to the medical tent himself. The memory of his gentle assistance still confuses me. As the afternoon wears on, the work becomes harder. My hands are blistered, and my back aches fiercely. But the soldiers rotate us, letting us rest in shifts under a makeshift shelter. They even share their cigarettes with some of the women. When the sun finally begins to set, we're allowed to return to our barracks. I'm bone-tired but somehow feeling accomplished. As I wash up at the communal sink, voices drift through the thin walls from the next room. "Look at how they strut around, acting like they're better than us," someone says bitterly. I recognize Greta's voice, one of the older prisoners, especially those black ones. "In Germany, they wouldn't dare. It's disgusting," another voice chimes in. "They think a little kindness will make us forget who they are, what they've done to our homeland." "They're still our enemies," a third voice adds. "Never forget that. All this nice treatment is just propaganda." My hands freeze on the soap. Their words make my stomach twist uncomfortably. Just hours ago, I'd watched Private Woods help Eva, who'd nearly fainted from the heat. He'd brought her water and let her rest in the shade until she felt better. There was no propaganda in that moment, just human kindness. But am I weak for noticing these things? For feeling grateful when they treat us with dignity? My father would be ashamed if he knew I was beginning to see them as people rather than enemies. The Reich taught us that compassion for our enemies was treasonous. I stare at my reflection in the scratched mirror above the sink. The same blue eyes look back at me. But something in them has changed. I'm not sure I like what I see. This softening, this doubt, but I can't deny what I've witnessed with my own eyes, no matter how much it conflicts with everything I was taught to believe. I shivered in the early morning chill as we lined up for roll call. The Wisconsin autumn felt colder than home, or maybe it was just the weight of my thoughts making everything seem darker. Around me, the other women stood rigid, their faces set in familiar scowls. Helga and Martha, two sisters from Dresden, stood to my right. They'd been whispering more than usual lately, their voices filled with anger whenever the black soldiers passed by. I tried not to listen, but their words crawled under my skin like insects. "Name and number," called out Private Thompson. a black soldier I'd seen working in the mess hall. His voice was firm but not unkind. "We've done this 100 times, Helga spat back. "You know who we are." My heart jumped into my throat. This wasn't like Helga. She usually kept her hatred quiet. "Name and number," Private Thompson repeated, his patience evident in his steady tone. Martha stepped forward, her thin face twisted with rage. "You treat us like animals, counting us like cattle. Step back in line," Thompson ordered, but Martha moved closer. I watched in horror as the situation unraveled. Martha's hands balled into fists, and Helga joined her sister's side. Other women began muttering, the sound growing like thunder before a storm. "Please," I said, stepping forward. "Let's just do the roll call." My voice shook, but I kept moving between them. "Traitor," Helga hissed at me. "You're always defending them." Private Thompson raised his hand for silence, but Martha lunged forward, shoving me aside. I stumbled, catching myself against another prisoner. The guard towers above us creaked as soldiers shifted their weapons. "Stand down!" A familiar voice cut through the chaos. Private Isaac Woods appeared, his presence commanding attention. "Everyone back in line. Now." Martha spat on the ground. "We won't be ordered around by—" "That's enough." I surprised myself with the force of my words. "They've shown us nothing but kindness. Why are you doing this?" The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush us all. Private Woods gestured for Thompson to continue the roll call, then turned to me with an unreadable expression. As we disbanded later, Woods passed close by me. "We're all just trying to survive," he murmured. "Don't forget that." Now I lay in my bunk, those words playing over and over in my mind. The rough blanket scratches against my chin as I pull it tighter, trying to ward off the chill that seems to come from inside rather than out. Helga and Martha whisper in their bunks across the room, but I tune them out. Instead, I remember the way Private Thompson had maintained his composure, how Woods had diffused the situation without violence. They showed strength through restraint, something I'd never seen in the military training back home. Every kind act I'd witnessed here challenged what I'd been taught to believe. The food they shared, the medical care they provided, even the simple dignity they showed us during roll calls. It all contradicted the monsters I'd been told they were. I touched the rough wood of my bunk, tracing the grain with my finger. Woods's words echo in my thoughts. "We're all just trying to survive." Such a simple truth, yet it shakes the foundation of everything I once believed. The night feels endless as I wrestle with these thoughts. Survival. Perhaps it means more than just staying alive. Perhaps it means keeping your humanity intact, even when the world tries to strip it away. The warmth of the late summer sun felt good on my face as I sat on the grass, watching clouds drift lazily across the Wisconsin sky. It had been weeks since we arrived at Camp McCoy, and something inside me had started to shift. The other women lounged, nearby, some dozing, others talking in hushed German. The guards stood at their posts, rifles slung over their shoulders, but their postures were relaxed. Private Woods approached, his boots crunching on the dry grass. My heart skipped. Not from fear anymore, but from something else I couldn't name. He nodded at me and sat down a respectful distance away. "Beautiful day," he said softly. I managed a small smile. My English was getting better. "Yes, it is." We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then he spoke again, his voice carrying a weight I hadn't heard before. "You know, before I came here, I never thought I'd be fighting in a war like this. Back home in Georgia, we had our own battles to fight." I turned to look at him, curious. His eyes were fixed on the distant horizon. "My daddy worked the fields his whole life," he continued. "Worked harder than anyone I knew. But some folks, they'd cross the street when they saw us coming. Stores wouldn't serve us. Had to use different water fountains, different entrances." He paused, drawing a deep breath. "When the war started, I thought joining up would make a difference. Show everyone we were Americans too, fighting for the same cause." My chest tightened as I listened. The words he spoke painted a picture so different from what I'd been taught about America, about black people. "But you are a soldier," I said softly. "You fight for your country." He gave a sad smile. "Even in uniform, some of our own troops treat us different. Can't eat in the same mess halls, can't use the same facilities." His voice grew quieter. "My little sister, she's smart as they come, wanted to be a teacher, but the school wouldn't take her. Mama cried that day, but she told us to keep our heads high, keep being kind, said hatred only makes the heart heavy. I felt tears prick at my corners of my eyes. The simple dignity in his words, the pain beneath them, touched something deep inside me. Here was a man who had every reason to be bitter, to treat us harshly, and yet he showed nothing but kindness. Why? I struggled to find the right words. Why are you telling me this? He turned to look at me then, his eyes gentle but serious. Because sometimes we need to see that the world isn't as simple as we're told. Good people can be found anywhere, and cruelty can come from those who are supposed to protect us. The color of our skin, the language we speak, the uniform we wear, none of that matters as much as what's in our hearts. I looked down at my hands, calloused from work, and thought about all the things I'd believed, all the hatred I'd been taught. Something inside me ached, like a wall beginning to crumble. But it was frightening too. This new way of seeing things. It meant everything I'd known might be wrong. Private Woods stood up, brushing off his uniform. Before he walked away, he said quietly, "Just remember, Miss Muller, we're all human beings first." I watched him go, his words echoing in my mind. For the first time, I saw him not as an enemy, not as a soldier, but as a person, one who had suffered, hoped, and dreamed just like me. The realization both comforted and confused me, like a light shining into a dark room, revealing things I wasn't sure I was ready to see. I hear the news during morning roll call. My heart sinks as Colonel Jefferson Price's words echo across the yard. "You will be transferred to a temporary camp before your repatriation to Germany." The other women around me shift and murmur, but I stand frozen, unable to process what this means. "Finally," whispers Greta beside me, "we can leave this place." Her voice holds relief, but I can't share her sentiment. My stomach feels like lead. Back in the barracks, everyone bustles around, gathering what few possessions they have. Some women laugh and chat excitedly about going home, while others sit quietly on their bunks, lost in thought. I mechanically fold my spare uniform, my hands trembling slightly. "Aren't you happy, Frida?" asks Martha, her eyes bright with anticipation. "We're going home." I force a smile but can't find the words to respond. How can I explain that the thought of leaving fills me with dread? That this place, which I once feared, now feels safer than anywhere else? Through the window, I watch the black soldiers going about their duties. They've shown us more kindness in these few weeks than I've seen in years of war. Private Woods helps an elderly prisoner carry her laundry basket, and the simple gesture makes my throat tight. "They're just acting nice," Greta scoffs, noticing my gaze. "Don't be fooled. But I know better now. I've seen too much genuine compassion to believe that anymore. The way they treated Helena when she fell ill, how they shared their extra rations with the weakest among us, the quiet dignity with which they faced our initial fear and hatred. It wasn't an act. The day passes in a blur of preparations and paperwork. As evening approaches, I step outside for a moment alone, needing to escape the excited chatter in the barracks. The sunset paints the sky in shades of orange and purple, and the air carries the scent of pine from the surrounding forest. "Miss Muller." I turn to find Private Woods standing a few feet away, his posture respectful but relaxed. My heart beats faster, and I manage a small nod. "I heard you're leaving tomorrow," he says softly. "Yes." The word comes out barely above a whisper. He takes a careful step closer. "I wanted to say goodbye, and..." He pauses, choosing his words carefully. "I hope what you've seen here stays with you." I swallow hard. I didn't expect. The words stick in my throat. "This place, you people. We're all just people," he says gently. "That's what I've learned in this war, no matter what anyone tells us about each other." Tears sting my eyes as he continues. "No matter where you go, remember this. Humanity doesn't have borders." His words hit me like a physical force. Everything I was taught, everything I believed about enemies and allies, about who deserves kindness and who doesn't, it all seems so hollow now. I want to tell him how much this means, how he and the others have changed something fundamental inside me, but I can't find the words. The setting sun casts long shadows across the camp, and I stand there, overwhelmed by emotions I'm not ready to name. Private Wood's presence beside me feels both comforting and painful, knowing tomorrow it will be gone. The train's rhythmic clatter fills my ears as we roll through endless fields of corn and wheat. America is so vast, so different from home. My heart feels as heavy as the iron wheels beneath us. I press my forehead against the cool glass, watching my breath fog up the window. "They're sending us to die," mutters Helga from across the aisle. "The kindness at Camp McCoy was just for show." I don't respond. How can I explain that the kindness we received wasn't fake? The memory of Private Woods helping Ava when she fell sick in the laundry room comes rushing back. His gentle hands as he supported her, the genuine concern in his eyes. Those weren't things you could pretend. The train screeches to a halt at another station. Through the dusty windows, I see a group of American soldiers climbing aboard our car. Some are black, like Private Woods, while others are white. The difference in their approach is immediate and striking. A white sergeant barks orders at us to stay seated, his hand resting on his holstered pistol. Behind him, a black corporal quietly helps an elderly German woman adjust her bag in the overhead compartment. The contrast makes my chest tighten. "Look at how the white ones treat us. That's what real Americans are like," whispers Greta, her voice bitter. "The others were just trying to fool us. But I've seen differently. I've learned differently. The past weeks at Camp McCoy have shown me that humanity isn't about the color of someone's skin. It's about what's in their heart." As the hours pass, I watch the two groups of soldiers. The white ones stand stiffly at attention, barely acknowledging us except to issue commands. The black soldiers maintain their vigilance but show small acts of kindness, offering water, helping adjust uncomfortable seating, speaking in soft tones. What strikes me most is how the white soldiers treat their black counterparts. They barely speak to them, and when they do, their words are clipped and cold. The black soldiers respond with rigid politeness, but I can see the tension in their shoulders, the careful way they move to avoid confrontation. It reminds me of Private Woods' words about his life back home, how he faced hatred just for being who he was. I understand now what he meant when he said he knew what it was like to be seen as less than human. The train rocks gently, and I close my eyes. My mind drifts back to Camp McCoy, to the small moments of unexpected kindness. Private Woods, teaching me how to say thank you properly in English. The way he would nod respectfully when passing by, treating us like people instead of enemies. Frau Müller, a gentle voice interrupts my thoughts. I open my eyes to find one of the black soldiers offering me a canteen of water. His kind expression reminds me so much of Private Woods that my throat tightens. "Thank you," I say softly, using the pronunciation Woods taught me. The soldier smiles, and for a moment, I'm back at Camp McCoy, feeling that same sense of safety and respect. But then a sharp command from one of the white officers makes him straighten up and move away quickly. I take a sip of water, watching the endless American landscape roll by. The divide between the soldiers is like a physical thing, hanging heavy in the air of our train car. I find myself missing Private Woods' quiet strength, his ability to bridge gaps between people with simple acts of kindness. The new camp feels wrong from the moment we arrive. Gone is the orderly, almost peaceful atmosphere of Camp McCoy. Here, everything feels harsh and unwelcoming. The barbed wire seems sharper, the guard towers more menacing. A white sergeant barks orders at us as we file off the train. His face is twisted in a permanent scowl, nothing like the calm expressions I'd grown used to at Camp McCoy. "Move it! Line up!" he shouts, jabbing his finger toward a muddy patch of ground. My shoulders tense as we're divided into work groups. The other women from my old unit are sent to the laundry facility, while I'm assigned to the kitchen with prisoners from France and Poland. My heart sinks at being separated from familiar faces. In the kitchen, the heat is stifling. A white corporal watches us with cold eyes as we peel potatoes and scrub pots. His presence makes me nervous. There's none of the quiet understanding I'd experienced with the black soldiers at Camp McCoy. Then I see him, Private Woods, walking past the kitchen window. Our eyes meet briefly, and I feel a flutter of relief. He gives me a subtle nod, careful not to draw attention. Just knowing he's here makes this strange place feel less hostile. Throughout the morning, I notice the divide between the white and black soldiers. The white soldiers bark orders and keep their distance, while the black soldiers maintain a professional but humane approach. It reminds me of Isaac's words about his experiences back home. "You, German." A white soldier's voice makes me jump. "Those potatoes aren't going to peel themselves." His tone drips with contempt. I duck my head and work faster, my cheeks burning. Later, during our brief lunch break, I catch glimpses of Isaac patrolling the yard. Each time he passes, he maintains his professional demeanor, but there's a warmth in his eyes that speaks volumes. We both understand that things are different here. We must be more careful. The afternoon drags on, heavy with tension. The French woman next to me, Marie, whispers, "The black soldiers. They treat us like people. The others." She doesn't finish her sentence, but I understand. Just before dinner, chaos erupts in the yard. A German prisoner, Hannah, from another unit, is arguing with a white guard about her work assignment. Their voices rise, echoing across the compound. Hannah's face is red with anger, the guard's hand tightening on his rifle. My heart pounds as I watch through the kitchen window. Other prisoners gather, drawn by the commotion. The white guard takes a threatening step forward. Then Isaac appears, moving with purpose but staying calm. He positions himself between Hannah and the guard, speaking in low, measured tones. The tension slowly deflates, but the incident leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. As we're escorted back to our barracks, I can't help but think about the stark difference between this camp and Camp McCoy. The racial divide here feels like a physical barrier, thick and impenetrable. I see it in every interaction, every order given, every suspicious glance. My chest aches with a familiar pain, the same confusion and sadness I felt when first realizing how wrong my previous beliefs had been. Now I understand even more deeply what Isaac had tried to tell me about his life in America. The hatred and division I see here mirror the very things I was taught to believe in Germany, and it makes me sick to my stomach. I watch from the laundry line as 2 white soldiers approach a group of black soldiers who are sharing coffee with some German prisoners. My hands tremble as I pin up a wet sheet, pretending not to notice, but my heart pounds in my chest. "Hey, what's this? A social club?" One of the white soldiers barks. His voice carries across the yard, sharp and hostile. The German women scatter quickly, leaving their half-empty cups behind. I notice how they keep their heads down, just like I've learned to do. The black soldiers stand their ground, but I can see the tension in their shoulders. "Just following orders, sir," one of them says, "making sure the prisoners stay in line while they work." "That's not what it looks like to me," the second white soldier sneers. "Looks like you're getting awful friendly with the enemy." I move closer to the fence, folding clothes that don't need folding. From here, I can see Isaac among the black soldiers. His face is calm, but his hands are clenched at his sides. "We treat them according to the Geneva Convention," Isaac says quietly. "Just like we're supposed to." The white soldier steps closer to him. "You're making us look soft. These are Nazis, Woods. Or did you forget what they did?" My chest tightens at his words. He's right about what Germany did, what we did, but he's wrong about us now, at least, some of us. I've changed, haven't I? Later, I find Isaac near the supply tent, sorting through boxes of provisions. I shouldn't approach him, but I need to understand. "Isaac," I say softly, glancing around to make sure we're alone, "why do they hate you showing us kindness?" He pauses, his hands resting on a box of canned goods. "It's complicated, Frida. Some folks can't stand seeing others treated like human beings, whether it's prisoners of war or their own countrymen. But we're the enemy," I say, echoing the white soldier's words, though they taste bitter in my mouth. Isaac looks at me then, his eyes tired but gentle. "Are you? Right now, in this moment, are you my enemy?" I want to say no, to tell him how much his kindness has meant to me, how it's changed the way I see everything, but the words stick in my throat. "I need to be careful," he says finally. "We all do. There's more at stake here than just you and me." I understand what he's not saying, that our friendship, if that's what this is, could cause trouble for both of us. For him especially. I thought things were different here in America. I admit, after how you treated us at Camp McCoy. "Some things are different," he says. "Some aren't. Change comes slow, Frida. Sometimes too slow." A whistle blows in the distance, the signal for prisoner roll call. I should go, but my feet feel heavy. "Go on," Isaac says gently. "We both have our places to be." I walk away from the supply tent, my mind churning with questions I can't answer. The hope I felt at Camp McCoy seems to be slipping away, replaced by a crushing reality. How can I believe in the power of human kindness when even the soldiers who guard us can't find it for each other? The divide between them is like a deep ravine, and I'm starting to wonder if anyone can build a bridge across it. Maybe some gaps are too wide to cross. The first shots rang out just after midnight. I jolted awake in my bunk, my heart pounding against my ribs. Through the darkness, I could hear the urgent whispers of the other women. Then came the searchlights, their bright beams cutting through the night like knives. "Margarete is gone," someone whispered in German. "She made a run for it." The camp's alarm blared, a harsh wailing that set my teeth on edge. Heavy boots thundered outside our barracks, and voices shouted commands in English. I sat up, my hands trembling as I wrapped my thin blanket around my shoulders. The barracks door burst open. "Everyone out! Now!" A white American soldier stood there, his rifle ready. We scrambled to comply, filing out into the cold night air in our nightclothes. The searchlights swept across the compound, casting strange shadows that made everything seem unreal. Guards ran along the fence line, their figures dark against the bright beams. I could hear dogs barking in the distance. "Line up! Against the wall!" Another soldier ordered. We pressed ourselves against the wooden barracks, shoulder to shoulder. I found myself between Anna and Sophie, both shaking from cold and fear. "I heard she had it planned for weeks," Sophie whispered. "Said she couldn't take it anymore." I stayed silent, watching the chaos unfold. More soldiers rushed, past us, some black, some white. Their usual divisions seemed forgotten in the emergency. I caught a glimpse of Isaac among them, his face tense with concern. The minutes stretched endlessly. We stood there, shivering, as the search continued. The dog's barking grew closer, more frenzied. Then came another shot, followed by screaming. My stomach lurched. The screaming continued, raw and filled with pain. It was Margaretha's voice. "Get the medic!" someone shouted. "We need a medic here." The guards pushed us back inside the barracks, but not before I saw them carrying a body across the compound. Margaretha's arm hung limp, swaying with each step. Blood gleamed black in the searchlights. Inside, we huddled together in the darkness. Some women wept quietly. Others muttered angry words about the Americans, their voices bitter with hatred. I sat on my bunk, knees drawn up to my chest, trying to make sense of it all. "This is what they really are," Anna spat. "All that kindness? Just a mask. They're still our enemies." I wanted to argue, to defend Isaac and the others who had shown us compassion, but the words wouldn't come. The image of Margaretha's limp body filled my mind. How could I reconcile the gentle man who had spoken to me of family and understanding with the brutal reality of what had just happened? The rest of the night passed in a fog of fear and confusion. None of us slept. We sat in silence, listening to the continued activity outside. The tramping of boots, the occasional shout, the soft whimpers of those still crying. When dawn finally came, we learned that Margaretha had died from her wounds. The white soldier who shot her claimed she had ignored his orders to stop. It didn't matter now. She was gone, and with her died something else, the fragile trust that had begun to grow in this strange place. I stared out the small window as the morning light grew stronger. The camp looked the same as it had yesterday, but everything had changed. The barbed wire seemed sharper, the guards more threatening. The kindness I had experienced, the moments of connection with Isaac, felt like a dream that had dissolved in the harsh light of day. I sit on my bunk, my hands trembling as I try to fold my thin blanket. The gunshot still echoes in my mind. All around me, the other women are huddled in small groups, whispering and crying. Some are angry, their faces twisted with hatred as they glare at the guards outside our window. "They're showing their true colors now," mutters Anna, one of the women who's been most vocal about her distrust of the Americans. "Just like animals, all of them." I want to argue, but my throat feels tight. The image of blood on the ground keeps flashing before my eyes. It was a white soldier who pulled the trigger, but now the women seem to be directing their anger at all the Americans, especially the black soldiers. Through the window, I watch as Private Woods and his fellow black soldiers maintain their posts, their faces showing a mix of sadness and resignation. They seem different from the white soldiers, who stand rigid and defensive, their hands tight on their weapons. "Did you see how that Negro soldier tried to stop it?" whispers Maria, another prisoner, her voice barely audible. "He reached for his superior's arm, but—" "Quiet," snaps Anna. "They're all the same. Don't let their act of kindness fool you. I can't take it anymore." Rising from my bunk, I walk to the far corner of the barracks where fewer women gather. My mind is a storm of conflicting thoughts. Everything I thought I understood about humanity seems to be crumbling. The kindness I'd experienced at Camp McCoy feels like a distant dream now. Hours pass, and as evening approaches, I slip outside to the small area behind the barracks where we're allowed during certain hours. The guard tower lights sweep across the compound, casting long shadows. That's when I hear familiar footsteps approaching. Fräulein Müller. It's Private Woods. He keeps a respectful distance but speaks softly. How are you holding up? I wrap my arms around myself, unsure how to respond. I don't understand anymore, I finally say. Any of it. Neither do I sometimes, he admits, leaning against the wall. You know, back home, I've seen things like this too. Not the shooting, but the hatred, the fear. It's like people forget we're all human when they're scared or angry. But you still show kindness, I say, turning to look at him, even after everything. He gives me a sad smile. That's the hardest part, isn't it? Keeping your humanity when others try to take it from you. Being kind when the world tells you to be cruel. He pauses, looking up at the stars. My grandmother used to say that hate is heavy, but love is light. Every time we choose kindness, we lighten our own load. His words sink deep into my heart, but they also stir up more questions. How do you do it? How do you stay good when even your own people treat you like the enemy? He finishes my thought. Because I know who I am, and I know that every person who looks at me with hate is carrying their own heavy burden. Sometimes, the kindest thing we can do is help them set it down. I feel tears welling up in my eyes, but I blink them back. Looking at Isaac, I see the same quiet strength I noticed that first day at Camp McCoy, but now I understand it better. It's not just strength, it's a choice he makes every day. I don't know if I can be that strong, I whisper. You already are, he says gently. You're here, aren't you? Asking these questions, feeling this pain. That's where it starts. I sit alone on my bunk, staring at my hands. They're still trembling from yesterday's shooting. The image of blood on the ground won't leave my mind, no matter how hard I try to shake it away. Around me, the other women whisper in hushed, angry tones. Some cry, others curse the Americans, but I can't join in their hatred anymore. These past weeks have shown me something I never expected to see, that the world isn't as simple as I was taught back home. The propaganda posters that once seemed so clear now feel like childish drawings, unable to capture the complexity of real human beings. Through the small window, I watch the guards changing shifts. The black soldiers nod respectfully to their white counterparts, but there's tension in their movements. It reminds me of how Isaac stands, always alert, always careful, like he's walking on broken glass. I've noticed how he adjusts his voice, his posture, depending on who he's talking to. It's a dance I'm starting to recognize, one that speaks of years of practice. They're all the same, Martha spits from the bunk above me. Americans. Monsters. I want to tell her she's wrong, but the words stick in my throat. How can I explain what I've seen? The gentle way Isaac helped Anna when she fell sick, or how the black soldiers share extra water during our work. Details. But then there's the shooting, the harsh words from some of the white soldiers, the cold stares. My head aches with the contradictions. In Germany, everything was so clear. There were friends and enemies, right and wrong, pure and impure. Now, I see the same divisions here in America, but they don't make any more sense than they did back home. Yesterday, I watched Isaac break up a fight between two prisoners. He didn't raise his voice or use his rifle. He just spoke quietly, firmly, until the women backed down. Later, I saw him talking with a white soldier, both of them laughing over some shared joke, only to stiffen and separate when an officer walked by. These moments pile up in my mind like puzzle pieces that don't quite fit together. The hatred I was taught feels hollow now, like a uniform that no longer fits. I think about Isaac's words from last night. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is see people as they are, not as we're told they should be. I stand up, my decision made. This division, it's like a wall we've all helped build, brick by brick, with our fear and prejudice. Maybe it's time to start taking it down, one brick at a time. I see a white soldier standing near our barracks. Private Miller, I think his name is. He's young, probably no older than me, and he always looks uncomfortable around us prisoners. Taking a deep breath, I walk toward him. "Excuse me," I say in my careful English. "The water pipe by our sink, it is leaking. Could you help?" He looks startled, probably because most of us never speak to the white soldiers unless we have to. For a moment, I think he'll ignore me or bark an order, but then something shifts in his expression. surprise, maybe even relief. "Show me where," he says, and his voice is different from what I expected. Softer, almost uncertain. As we walk toward the sink, I feel the weight of stares from both prisoners and guards. But for the first time, I understand that these divisions aren't walls, they're choices. And maybe, step by step, word by word, we can choose differently. The announcement came during morning roll call. Colonel Jefferson Price stood before us, his posture straight and official, as he delivered the news we had been waiting for and dreading. The war is coming to an end. Preparations for your repatriation will begin immediately. My heart thumped against my ribs. Home. After all this time, we were going home. The word felt strange in my mind, like a half-remembered dream. The other women around me erupted in a mix of reactions. Some cried with joy, others stood silent, and a few whispered prayers of thanks. I watched Anna, one of my closest friends here, wipe tears from her eyes. "Can you believe it, Frida? We're finally going back to Germany." Her voice cracked with emotion, but something held me back from sharing in their jubilation. The Germany we would return to wasn't the same one we had left, and we weren't the same women who had left it. Later that day, as I folded laundry in the workroom, my hands moved mechanically while my mind wandered. The sunlight streaming through the windows caught dust motes dancing in the air, and I thought about all the small moments that had changed me here, the unexpected kindnesses, the shared meals, the quiet conversations that had slowly chipped away at everything I thought I knew. "You're doing that thing again," Maria said beside me, nudging my arm. "Thinking too much." I managed a small smile. "How can I not? Everything is about to change." "Everything already has changed," she replied softly, glancing around the workroom. "Look at us, working alongside American soldiers, black soldiers no less. Would you have ever imagined this before?" I shook my head, remembering how terrified we had been when we first arrived. The propaganda had painted such horrible pictures in our minds, but reality had shown us something entirely different. During lunch break, I sat alone on a wooden crate behind the barracks, watching clouds drift across the Wisconsin sky. The sound of footsteps made me turn, and there was Private Woods, Isaac, approaching with his characteristic careful manner. "Heard the news?" he asked, maintaining a respectful distance. I nodded, unable to find the right words. How could I explain the storm of emotions inside me? The joy of returning home mixed with an inexplicable sadness at leaving this place where I had learned so much about humanity. "Some of the women are scared," I finally said, my English still awkward but much improved from our early days. "They worry about what we will find when we return." Isaac's expression softened. "Change is never easy, but you're stronger now than when you came here. All of you are." The things I believed before. I started, then stopped, struggling to express myself. They were wrong, so wrong, about Americans, about black people, about everything. "War teaches us terrible things," Isaac said, quietly. "But sometimes, if we're lucky, it teaches us beautiful things too, like how to see past our differences, how to find humanity in unexpected places." I looked at him then, really looked at him. This man who had been part of my transformation, from a frightened, prejudiced prisoner to someone who could finally see the truth. The war had brought us here, but something much more powerful had changed us. Simple human kindness. The camp bustled around us with the news of our impending departure. Women hurried back and forth, gathering what few possessions they had, talking excitedly about home. But in that moment, sitting there with Isaac, I felt the weight of what we would leave behind, the understanding we had found, the bridges we had built across seemingly impossible divides. The train rattles beneath my feet as we cross back into German territory. The familiar landscape scrolls past the window, but it's different now. Scarred, broken, like a face I once knew twisted by tragedy. My fellow prisoners chat excitedly about returning home, but I remain quiet, lost in my thoughts. I press my forehead against the cool glass, watching bombed-out buildings and ruins pass by. My stomach churns with a mixture of emotions I can't quite sort out. The Germany I left isn't the one I'm returning to, and I'm not the same person who left it. "Look," Maria whispers beside me, pointing to a group of children picking through rubble. "Our poor homeland." I nod, unable to find words. The sight of those children makes my chest ache, but it's different from the blind, patriotic pain I would have felt before. Now I see them as Isaac would, just children, regardless of their nationality, caught in something bigger than themselves. At least we're home, another woman says firmly, away from those Americans. I bite my tongue, remembering Isaac's gentle smile as he handed out extra bread rations, the way he spoke about his family back home, the kindness in his eyes when he told me about his grandmother's cooking. These memories feel like treasures I have to hide now, precious things that others wouldn't understand. The train passes through towns I once knew, now reduced to skeletal remains. Women in ragged clothes sweep debris from doorways that lead nowhere. Old men sit on broken steps, their eyes vacant. This is what we fought for, what we believed in, now lying in pieces around us. It will be better now, Maria says, but her voice wavers. We can rebuild. I think about rebuilding, but not just the buildings. My mind drifts to the conversations I had with Isaac about creating a world where people could see past their differences. It seems impossible here, surrounded by the aftermath of hate, yet I can't forget what I learned. The other women start gathering their meager belongings as we approach our final stop. They talk about finding their families, returning to their old lives. But my old life feels like a dress I've outgrown. Familiar, but no, longer fitting quite right. Through the window, I spot the station approaching. The platform is crowded with people waiting for loved ones, their faces thin and tired. My heart pounds against my ribs. How do I explain to them what I've learned? How do I tell them that our enemies showed me more humanity than I ever expected? The train shudders to a stop with a loud hiss of steam. Around me, women stand, eager to disembark. I remain seated for a moment longer, touching the small piece of paper in my pocket, a note Isaac had secretly passed to me before we left. Remember, there's good in everyone. It reads in careful German, even when it's hard to see. Finally, I stand and join the line of women moving toward the exit. The steps down to the platform feel impossibly steep. Each one takes me further from Camp McCoy, further from the understanding I found there. As my feet touch German soil for the first time in months, I feel like a stranger in my own land. The air smells of smoke and decay. Around me, my fellow prisoners rush into the arms of waiting family members. I stand alone, my small bag clutched to my chest, watching the reunion scene unfold. Everything is familiar. The language, the faces, the buildings in the distance. But it all feels different now, seen through eyes that have witnessed unexpected kindness in the midst of war. I sit at my small wooden desk, watching dust particles dance in the late afternoon sunlight streaming through my window. The streets of my hometown are quiet now, so different from the chaos of just months ago. My fingers trace the rough edges of the paper before me, and I take a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. The rebuilding of Germany continues around me. Every day, I see people clearing rubble, repairing buildings, trying to piece their lives back together. But my own reconstruction has been different, less visible, but just as profound. I think often of Camp McCoy, of those strange days that changed everything I thought I knew. The memories come to me at odd moments, while hanging laundry, during my walks to the market, or in the stillness of evening. I remember the fear I felt when we first arrived, certain we would face cruel treatment. How wrong I had been. My hand trembles slightly as I pick up my pen. I've thought about writing this letter for weeks now, trying to find the right words. How do you thank someone for showing you that humanity exists even in the darkest places? Dear Private Woods, I write, then cross it out. Dear Isaac. I begin again, the familiar name feeling right on the page. The words start flowing then, like a river breaking through a dam. I tell him about my journey home, about seeing my country in ruins, but also witnessing the resilience of people helping each other rebuild. I describe how strange it felt at first, being free again, and how I sometimes caught myself looking for the fence lines that were no longer there. The hardest part, I write, has been carrying what I learned from you. Some days, when I hear people speak with the same hatred that once filled my own heart, I want to tell them about the Black American soldiers who showed more humanity than anyone had taught us to expect. I want to tell them about you, Isaac. My cheeks are wet, but I keep writing. I tell him about the small ways I try to pass on what he taught me, helping my neighbors regardless of their politics, sharing what little food I have, showing kindness where I can. You showed me that compassion isn't weakness, I write. It's the strongest force we have. The afternoon light grows softer as I fill page after page. I write about my hopes for the future, about my belief that perhaps the next generation can learn to see beyond the barriers we created. I tell him how his words still echo in my mind. We're all just trying to survive. Your kindness, I write near the end, did more than help me survive. It taught me how to live again, how to see people as people, not as enemies or allies, but as human beings capable of both great cruelty and remarkable compassion. I choose compassion now, because of what you showed me. I pause, looking at the pages filled with my careful handwriting. So much has changed since those days at Camp McCoy. The woman who arrived there, full of fear and hatred, seems like a stranger to me now. I am different, stronger, wiser, more human. I sign my name at the bottom of the letter, then add a postscript. Thank you for showing me that even in war, there can be moments of grace. You helped me find my way back to my own humanity. I hope you like this story. Please share what's your favorite part of the story and where in the world you are watching from. Have a wonderful day.